Hello and welcome. It's Nahu Mikey P, Mike Pribozie, looking at a special presentation from In the Money Media, another Harness Players podcast. And we had some Grand Circuit eliminations last night, MGM Yonkers Trot and the Grand Messenger eliminations. And here to talk to me about that, as well as go over some pick fives for Monday night at Yonkers. They have guaranteed pick five on Monday nights. A couple of my good friends here. And Ray Cotolo, welcome back, and we live the dream doing these Harness Players podcasts. And then, of course, Thomas Svensen, always a perfect person to have on here to talk harness racing because he knows it better than most.
I would agree. Whenever it comes to like horse questions I have where I'm like, hey, Thomas, what's this muscle on the rear end? He'll tell me gluteus. He'll give me everything I need to know. How many legs does that horse have? 4. What's wrong? Hock. He just knows.
He does know.
He knows. It's like a fifth sense.
Thomas, what's up? Did you enjoy the races last night?
Yeah, it was like not the result I expected. So it's a little bad to see that Yonkers Trot have I think it's 300 in the final, and you can only get like 8-9 horses, or like 9-10 horses entered to the race. So we're gonna recap the races and discuss what we saw and what we expect to the final.
Do you think it's like the half-mile tracks? Do you think that there's just so many opportunities for different horses to go to different spots? Like what makes it to where this sort of kind of gets, it's almost like the redheaded stepchild in a way.
Yeah, the horses who are going to go aiming for the Hambo is normally not going to prep to go the Yonkers to race on a half. The track is better the last year and have been before, so it's like that. But they have more options to go for. Like if you take Call, you take TCI and the big guns, they will more qualify or race at Meadowlands just to get a mile in them instead of going the Yonkers. And some horses, when you race too much on a half, you get sore. You're hiking right hind because it's not natural to race on in that speed. You need to go. Yesterday was a fast back half, so they went on 54 and a piece, and that's a good mile on Yonkers.
Yeah, and first leg of the trotting Triple Crown, first leg of the pacing Triple Crown, also Ray. At thoroughbreds, it's a huge deal. That Triple Crown is basically their entire marketing scheme. With harness, it kind of gets lost.
Yeah, it's definitely within the last, I'd say, 20 years. It's since I'm trying to think. The last pacing Triple Crown was. I keep thinking Blissful Hall, but he wasn't the last one. I think it was one of the Pan horse. Was it no pan intended? Was the last pacing Triple Crown?
Yeah. And the Derek's podcast, he told you that the other day.
He didn't tell me that. I wasn't one of the guested listeners on Derek's podcast. But everyone has a podcast nowadays too. Have you noticed that? Ourselves included. But yeah, like no pan intended. That would have been 2001, 2003 at this point. And then even like trotting Triple Crown, that's Glide Master. So we're still.
I think Marion Marauder did it before.
You're right, and even then, it's like he totally gets lost in the conversation because he was the first one since Glide Master to win it. And even then, it kind of just happened because he happened to go to the Yonkers Trot. He happened to win the Hambletonian, and then he was in the Kentucky Futurity with one of the worst posts you could get, and he happened to win that. And then when you look back at his resume, you go, "Oh right, yeah, he did do that." I honestly, I think it's just, the nature of the calendar now. There are so many big races that these horses can target. And on top of that, I also with like just the sire stakes programs and stuff like that too, there are so many different like stake trajectories or pathways you can bring your horses down versus in thoroughbreds. Given they have the graded system, you kind of know the prestige of every race. While in harness, it's a lot more of a grab. It's almost like designed to be more of a grab bag now, where here's a $300,000 race you can target. Here's a $300,000 race you can target. And then you have horsemen with a lot more options to figure out what their horses might fit into. And it becomes more of a managing game unless you get like a really good one, in which case you can go and tour them. But as Thomas can tell you, it's like that can really take a lot even out of a good horse.
Well, there's a great example of this from what you say. Like there's a division of the New York Sire Stakes for 3-year-old trotters this week coming up on Wednesday. I know this because I own part of one of the horses that's in the race, and that's Skybox. But they're going for $119,000 on a Wednesday at Buffalo. So, I mean, that shows you what kind of money's out there in these sire stakes programs. And, some of the big horses show up in the Yonkers Trot. Well, that gives opportunities to those, maybe those Excelsior types that can sneak into those big pots because the big boys are racing in the stakes. So.
And I can tell you too, one of my first jobs in racing was following the Hambletonian Trail back in like 2010. And the one thing that was notable even then was you could see the transition from people campaigning their horses with Grand Circuit targets in mind to where the sire stakes money became good enough that's where you started seeing the majority of horses doing their work, getting their miles, developing, because the money was just so good. You didn't have to try and over torque your horse to win a race like the Good Times to prep for something like the Hambo. The Good Times just happens to be a race where if you can target it with the right horse, you can go get the change. But these provincial programs and state programs are so good almost everywhere. New York, Pennsylvania, Ontario, especially Kentucky now, and they have their finals on Monday or Tuesday for the 4-year-olds. Again, just to say, there's just so much money everywhere. And in part, I feel like if you're talking about why is the Triple Crown not much of a conversation anymore, it's because it's a lack of focus. There's so much happening that the prestige of the races just gets kind of lost.
Thomas, you're more on the horseman side. So say for you, does a Triple Crown mean something to you, or is it the Hambo and then sort of everything else?
The Hambo means everything, and then you have maybe the futurity, and it all comes to the Breeders' Crown, they say. But Hambo is like, if you take a horse like Carl this year, he's going to be syndicated after this season. That's like 99%. The only goal they have with him is to winning the Hambo and get a 49 mark or maybe faster, because it's going to increase his value. Like we have Greenshoe. I think Greenshoe, when he was syndicated, was at $16 million and around that ish. And I think Carl is going to be maybe the most expensive syndicated trotters since I come to America in 2015 at least. So Hambo is the race to win. So, and it's like if you win Yonkers Trot, nobody gonna remember you.
Do you think if I put $20 in on the syndication, I could get like 1/1,000,000% in on Carl? Would they do a stake that low for me?
Now, I would guess when he comes out, he's going to come out in 120 shares, maybe 100, but normally 120 shares. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to price him to maybe $1.50 for the shares for lifetime breeding.
$1.50. So by $20, that could get me a lot of shares in Carl. I'm keeping my eye on this.
But you can just take a horse like Muscle Hill. I sold a couple of shares in him for a couple of years ago, and they was around 100 to 120 that time. And he has been one of the kings for 14, 15 years now. Mm-hmm. So just think about it, how much money there is in the breeding business.
Absolutely. Well, let's do a little recap, I think, from last night's races. And we had one Yonkers Trot elimination. They only needed one, and the top 5 will make it. There's 3 horses that got buys into the final. Security Protected, Situationship, and what's this other horse?
Sir Pinocchio.
So, yes, Sir Pinocchio.
That's a Ock horse, right?
He's made quite a bit of money so far this year. I think he's made, 150 already?
Yeah.
So
that's great. I was just going to say, with the Yonkers trucks, we're talking about the prestige of races and stuff. It's still $300,000 race. So you're talking like, if you have a target, you can still, there's a lot of money to be made, even in these other races. And I think on top of that, too, you look at the last few years of the Yonkers Trot, there are some guys who've really made it a target. I'm thinking Melander. I'm thinking Svensen especially. And I wonder how much their presence also kind of tells other people we should try our horses elsewhere.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, anytime you can dodge the big boys, I think that's wise. I mean, that doesn't really matter. When they write the checks out for the purses, they don't say, well, you beat this horse or beat that horse.
They only say that in the sales ring. And even then, they don't say that in the sales ring.
Well, last night, I think Ray's going to show us. Are we gonna show the replay from last night?
Yeah, I got queued up the last quarter here from, we're looking at the single elimination for the Yonkers Trot. For those listening, you are hearing us talk about how we're going to show. So you're going to hear Hatter calling the last quarter of the Yonkers Trot elimination. And worth noting how this race set up. There were a couple breakers who then kind of just got out of the mix, 2 or 3 to say. And yeah, and from that end, if it's a top 5 going to the final, you have to wonder how many noticed some of their competition was kind of struggling or not staying flat. And then, just watching to see how much of their horse they might be using to get to a certain spot, certain position, or maybe they're saving something for the final based on wherever they landed. So we can catch them here at the final quarter. I'll leave Hatter to call the race then.
You have to unmute that, Ray.
Cones.
You're
Off
so
stride,
right.
It wasn't me, so that allows I'm out to move up to third now. As they come to the top of the stretch to spin for home, it is Bargain. Bargain is in front, but Fly By off of that perfect pocket trip is trying to do just that, and he is flying by now on the outside, but Bargain is battling back to the inside. Fly By, they're coming in close contact here. These two down to the line together, Bargain and Fly By. Wow, it's tight. It's either Bargain or Fly By. A close photo there. Third was I'm Out. Then was Flying Chronos, 154 and 3.
So I think the most noteworthy thing in the conversation around that race, Fly By, as Hatter was saying, had a lot of momentum, but you have to wonder, being on the smaller track, was that contributing to that horse really bearing in to Bargain and causing that nose defeat inside of the elimination?
I would ask Thomas that question.
Thomas,
but it's like normally when you have the small tracks, as on the turns they have problems. So you normally have a head pole or maybe a Murphy on the inside because they struggle on the turns, and then you come to the stretches. Some of them are drifting out, but this one here was drifting in, and Bargain was maybe coming a little out on him, and they was going maximum speed down the home stretch. I think it was just little something happened there when they was fighting up against each other. I think if Scott Sharon have clear path, he will win the race with a head or nose. They was almost looking a little wheeled during the end, but what can I say? Bargain there, like also it's typical Yannick. How many elimination doesn't Yannick wins?
Mm-hmm.
Because he drives 90% of the horses. It doesn't care if it is an elimination or overnight or a final. He normally goes to the front or is up close, and then you see some of the other drivers try to baby them. And the biggest issue I have with this race is like the winner is not going to get a good post. He can drew the 8th hole, and it's like it doesn't matter if you get 3rd or 4th or 5th. You're going to be in the final. So I'm not a big fan of how the rules are in New York. When you have elimination, you need to drive to get the best position and the best draw in the final, and that will be better for the batters and better for everybody.
No, and there was a clear discrepancy in that race between the top 2 and the rest of them, because if you remember them coming off the final turn and into the stretch, they went full throttle immediately upon straightening and gained enough separation where I have to imagine the guys who were in 3rd, 4th, and 5th were realizing we're not going to get any better of a position, so we're not really going to try and urge our horses super home. We're just going to try and maintain where we are while these two duke one another out. And that raises a question then of, does that help the horses that were 1st and 2nd? Do you think maybe they're a bit tighter for the final, or do you think some of the others who were able to just wait and hold their hands might have something in reserve for the final?
Like Bargain, he's not easy. You can see the bridle ahead on him, and he make breaks before. So I think they're just going to gun him out anyway to see if either he make a break or he get a good position. When it was with Flyby, I think he is sharp coming into the race, and he's sharp getting out of the race. Does he have a shot in the final? I'm not sure. I think 2 of the horses who get a bye is the 2 horses who are gonna be the horses to beat Situationship and Security Protected. Security Protected, who comes from Melander, is training on a half, and he is benefiting of training on a small track because he is on the left line. So he would be good on Yonkers. I was a little disappointing about Flying Cronus. I expect more. I know it was just after 2 qualifiers, but he was never behind the gate. He never looked like he was on the bit foggy. when he pulled the plugs, he was just in Disneyland. And yeah, he should at least go by I Am Out to be third flying Kronos, where I should expect more of him. So I think Aki's situationship is his card, and Melander have his card going into the final. But if they drew post 7 and 8, what are we going to discuss then?
You answered one of my questions, because I took Security Protected to be more of a bigger track horse just from the few races I saw from him as a 2-year-old. I know he did okay over the 5/8, but obviously that is a question when you come to a race like the Yonkers Trot. So that's interesting information ahead of the final for next week. Though I think the only other horse I'm kind of curious your take on, Thomas, is Duke of Walner, because this guy is a 2-year-old. I remember there were a lot of eyes on him. A lot of people thought that he had a lot of potential to be something really big, and he had an okay 2-year-old season. But so far in his 3-year-old year, I know Tim Tetrick kind of just tried to teach him in some of the races that he was in, but otherwise it's kind of tough to see what he is as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's like I call him the playboy in the barn, because he's beautiful, he's good gated, he's like a car to drive. Last year he hung every time he had a chance to win at Meadowlands. He was talked up about Derek, he was talked about me. He had a 26 quarter in a qualifier, but he never passed a horse. So this year a little the same. He is not passing horses. This race he come out with an open eye bridle and air plugs. Did he pass a horse? No. That is the biggest question mark I have with some of the Walner's offspring. None of them wanna pass a horse. You need almost that. It's hard for me to say that, because everybody's talking about Walner like the new super stallion, but some of them you need to like trick them. It's not like a Muscle Hill or Chapter 7. Walner, they're good gated, they are athletic, but you need to like just see on the Oaks horses by around Warwick Michelle and Sorry Hanover. None of them gonna win the Oaks if they need to do the work. But if you try to race them from a helmet and like, because they are very, very fast, and the same thing with Duke of Walner. Sometimes when you sit behind him home, you think you have a superstar, but he's a good horse, but he's not a superstar.
So when you're making these decisions, and I know you're involved with that barn, and you're making decisions about, okay, we're going to put this horse and continue to put him in these stakes spots and things like that. Does it ever think, okay, maybe this horse needs different competition, maybe it needs some confidence, things like that? Like, what goes into the decision making as far as where they show up?
You have, like, when you come to February, when you have your first stake payment, they've been training down the winter. The owners is very optimistic. The trainers is optimistic. You stake them where you think they are and like that. And that's like 90% of the owners, they want you to follow that stake calendar. Like, and it's like for Duke of Walner, he's a Kentucky horse too, but is it going to be easy to go down to Kentucky now, or racing in Commonwealth or in the Sire Stakes? Commonwealth is almost like a big good Sire Stakes too coming up now. So it is not like normally, like you asked me there, should we just try to see if we can find a overnight? Yeah, we tried to do that on Poconos. Then he looked like a winner till he was in the middle of the home stretch, and Aki's amazing catch dig them down the last 116. It looked like he was going to win for almost a mile, but when he had a need to see a horse in the eye, he didn't win. So but that's like with the stake payment and everything, all the owners is dreaming about having horses going into the big races, and some trainers, and like, it's not everybody is like Jimmy Takter, who just decide by himself and take the decision where he thinks they should go, and don't like he is a Hall of Famer, so he can take this decision. So
that's interesting dynamic, especially with the owners and the different people, and those are the guys paying the bills. So if they say go here, I imagine you go here, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, we all think Duke of Walner is better than he shows, but he made 120, I think, maybe it was around 120 last year. He raced good, but it's like I expect a little more about him, and especially with the Yonkers Trot, because he trained on a half and he looked super. He had no problem on the half, but I expect him to be a little closer than the fifth he was in the race there. He wasn't like when you go in and look on the replay, you need to just watch the replay, and because you don't remember him being in the race because he was sitting fifth and finished fifth.
I think the last question I have to touch on this before we start talking about the messenger eliminations, given your position working with these horses, Thomas, obviously we can see as handicappers that these horses can be frustrating, where you look at the lines, there's clear ability, but there's a disconnect, and it all comes from the horse of just not being able to put their ability together, or they're shy about something. And so in your position as, you're not necessarily a trainer, but you're in the circle of it, how methodical is it to want to just like try and change a lot of equipment, play with shoeing, or how much of it is almost like you're just trying to tweak things little by little because you don't want the house to fall apart?
I was lucky to be around Jimmy Tactor when we had Tactical Landing, and been around. Have a very good communication with Jimmy, and when you were also around Jimmy, you could see all the changes from different horses he could try. And if we want to try something, he said just try. And especially with shoeing, maybe some bridle change and stuff like that. But just take a horse like we have at the Lucas Walling Barn, 4th of July, who everybody expected. He was a big price tag. He was the brother of the Quattro Julio Green Shoe, coming out as a 2-year-old. He was very green and very, very childish. And there is very much stallion in him. So, but this year he has been turning around a little and developed to be maybe a Hambletonian horse that can go into the Hambo if he didn't win last time at Meadowlands, but he had a back half in 54, and I never seen that horse get tired. And that is a horse we have been back and forth since 2 to 3 to change equipment on to see where he can be, because he have a French dam pedigree. So that is the coolest thing to be around the horses when you try to you have a horse with top class, and you try to find the right solution either in training or equipment or stuff like that to work it out to go to the winner's circle.
And so then, like, ahead of a race like this, are you more open to trying? Like, if you can clearly see there's something that the horse isn't putting together, is a race like this an opportune time to, like, make a big bridle change or anything like that? Or do you try and save that for another spot later?
I think right now with Duke of One, I think he's going to race like he did last time. And, like, I think later, like if we go down to Kentucky or something like that, then we're going to pull the shoes on him. And it's like more the Scandinavian way, like Aki do, Jim. You saw Hasty Bud last time with Tactor. You could see Jimmy was the guy who take the head polo. So that's been like little Jimmy's boy maybe in the Tactor barn, Hasty Bud. And he raced without shoes and he win the graduates. It's more like, but like when you are an underdog, then it's easier to try to do some equipment changes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's move on to the messenger. And there were 2 eliminations last night, both won by the favorites. Ray, do we have some replays?
We do.
It was race 6 and race 7 last night. So race 6 was the first elimination, and Howlin' the Hills was the winner.
Yeah, I was going to say 1-2 favorite, Howlin' the Hills, cut most of the fractions. There was a little bit of interference at the start of the race between Bonaparte and Howlin' the Hills. Bonaparte didn't make the final. He finished 6th inside of the race, but pretty tepid first half. We're going to pick him up just about at the 3/4.
Watch this replay, because I think the 4 looks very live, very much live in this final quarter here. So this is, I know he comes up ahead short, but this horse looks very live going into the final.
And for those listening, that specifically is Armada Hanover coming to the 3/4. He's sitting just about 4th, maybe about 4-ish lengths off of the leader, Howlin' the Hills, as we're going to pick him up with Edison Hatter at the 3/4.
Opens up by 2.5, now 3. Bonaparte looking to keep tabs on the leader from 2nd. Up on the outside, Escape to America's first up. 2nd over with covers, Armada Hanover. 5th to the inside is Lose World. Ameritrix still last to the main pack. 3/4, 125-1. They set sail for the far turn the final time, and it is Howlin' the Hills who looks to seal the deal. Escape to America on the outside, still trying hard now from 2nd. Bonaparte continues to gap at the inside third. Armada Hanover is fourth and ready to swing wide for the stretch drive, but as they spin for home, it's Howlin' the Hills. Howlin' the Hills is still there from Escape to America. Here's Armada Hanover off cover coming down the center of the racetrack. Howlin' the Hills is in front. Armada Hanover pacing strong late down to the line. At the inside, Howlin' the Hills got there. Armada Hanover had to settle for second, 153-3.
And for those listening, just a couple of visual notes. Armada Hanover gaining in that 28-2 final quarter. But Matt Kakali, it very clearly was a measured win. Matt didn't raise the whip on Howlin' the Hills at all. Armada Hanover, though, was gaining a lot of ground in that 28-2 final quarter. His chart, I believe, is 27-4 for his final quarter. And that was a 56-3 back half. Where he made up ground. I think
if we were in the final there, I would think that Teacher could have moved way sooner because he was loaded the whole way around that final turn. That's pretty easy to see if you watch the replay. But going into the final, he was on dead cover there. Escape to America ended up, being even, finishing fourth in that race. But Armada Hanover looks pretty sharp going into the final, I think.
I was going to say, just the way that he moves the way I love to see like a really good pacer move, because there's sometimes you can watch a pacer go over the track and they're kind of like luggy and they can have a lot of speed, but Armada Hanover looks like the kind that he just kicks the ground from under him. And a lot of times those are the horses that have a nice turn of foot. They can be fairly handy, excuse me. But it's no surprise. Who trains him? Brett Pelling.
Thomas, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing was the first quarter with Howlin' the Hills when he got interfered by Captain Skippy when Adam made a break. He was like 5 wide during the first turn there, and it was like little rougher first quarter for him and to come to the lead and stuff like that before he settled down. So I think it was a super good performance. But like you said, I'm sitting back with Armada Hanover, Tim driving, T-Trick driving there. He was flying home. It's going to be exciting to see the post with Armada Hanover because he can definitely crack in the final.
I was going to say we can take a quick peek without the call here. So Captain Skippy blasts for the lead, gets like a 2 or 3 length advantage going into the first turn before getting rough. Howlin' the Hills is wide. Bonaparte ducks inside. Howlin' the Hills, I'd say that's probably the 5 path.
Yeah,
he's carried out to around that first turn, staying flat through it. He loses probably about 2 lengths on Bonaparte, and he clears the lead after a 28-2 first quarter, which admittedly soft for pacing 3-year-olds over the half. It's kind of like a moderate fraction, but still, it's a lot of ground to lose and have to recoup. And it makes sense then at the end of the mile that Matt was not really going to the stick, was just trying to measure it and get the horse across without having to ask him to do anything else, especially given top of the stretch. He had like a 3-year length lead, I think, over the rest of them.
Yeah, so top 4 make the final there. So Howlin' the Hills, Armada Hanover, Lose World, Escape to America will advance to next weekend. And like Thomas said, open draw in the final. The second elimination, and Ray's going to cue it up for us, was won by the favorite also. And this was T-Trick with Janelle Granny. Was able, another one, to go wire to wire from the 7 post. Took quite a bit of action in the race, and really I thought was never in danger of losing the race.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's the only horse that came from the North America Cup finals or eliminations to the Messenger. And what's also worth noting is in the North America Cup final, he raced pretty well. Like, he was in a pretty bad spot, just given, the post and where he could get away. And I thought Brett McDonald did an okay job just trying to at least maybe get him a check. I think he ended up finishing 6th in the North America Cup final, but he had a decent amount of pace, and the bettors just they were not going to let him go. He went off the even money favorite for Team Clegg. Of course, T-Trick, longtime friend of theirs from the Midwest, picked up the drive. Janelle Granny is on the lead at the 3/4, where we're going to catch this replay from Ed Hatter. And this one went a lot faster in the first half. 27-1 first quarter, 56 first half. And the back half comes in just about 56-3. But we're going to catch the second elimination just before the 3/4. Janelle Granny on the lead.
is in front, but soon to get some company. On the outside, Mr. 305 with the first up march comes after this leader. Third to the inside is Hunting for Chrome. Second over with cover is Sweet Beach Life. Fifth to the inside is Bet on Mac. To the outside, third over is Wish You Well. Back marker still Tenacious Hanover. 3/4, 124-4. Midway around the far turn, the final time, and it is Janelle Granny. Janelle Granny looks to seal the deal, has the lead out to a length and a half here over Mr. 305, is looking to battle away from second. Up on the outside, Sweet Beach Life comes off cover now as they come through the stretch. It's Janelle Granny. Janelle Granny's in front. Sweet Beach Life to the outside is diving late, so is Mr. 305, but Janelle Granny is still in front, close to home, and Janelle Granny finds the line in front. Sweet Beach Life was second, then it was Mr. 305 and Wish You Well, 152-3.
I was going to say, you want to talk closers. Armada Hanover obviously was one of the noteworthy ones in the first elimination. I really liked how Sweet Beach Life responded. Granted, the trip was great too. He was second over, but when Kakali asked him, the horse instantaneously started picking up speed and was coming after Janelle Granny. And Teacher Cat, he had to kind of just keep an eye on that one to grab the win. It was a little close for comfort. Win by the favorite, but definitely, runner-up again in this elimination caught eyes.
Yeah, Travis gets his horses ready too. I mean, I think a lot of his horses are very, very good on the half. This was a murderer's row though of trainers again. I mean, Nancy Tactor, Scotty D, Nifty Norman, Jen Bongiorno, Linda Toscano. So all the top barns have horses in these races. So it's always tough competition no matter what. When you're going for these big races, this big money, you're going to face these top barns, and they have second, third, fourth string type horses that they can show up with, and this is one of them. I mean, if you look at Janelle Granny's race in the North America Cup, probably fourth, fifth, sixth best in the race, shows up here and dominates an elimination at even money. So, but I'm curious, Thomas, what'd you think about the race?
I was little I think it was a good performance by Janelle Granny. It was almost like Timmy had him asleep going up to the 3/4 pole when Yannick rushed up with Mr. 305, but he waked him up and pulled the plugs, and he almost got Sweet Beach Life when he got a helmet and fly home. I expected maybe a little more for a Wish You Well. I know he was sitting far behind and kicked home 27-4. I like that horse, but this year has been just okay. Mr. 305 raced super good. It's going to be a draw in this race, because if you ask me right now if I'm going to go to the window before we know the draw, I have a feeling for Armada Hanover, like Timothy. I don't know if he's going to drive him compared to the other one. It's going to be exciting to see who's going to drive Armada Hanover. Hanover is not, maybe it could be Todd McCarthy since it's Pelling, and that horse from a helmet, if you get a good post, I will go to the window on him.
I was going to say, also worth noting, in the first Yonkers Trot elimination, if we're talking driver intentions, I thought it was a big tell that T-Trick took the D Domenico horse over Duke of Walner inside of the Yonkers Trot elimination. And I mean, they're both Illinois guys, so there's a part of me that feels like Tim would stay with Janelle Granny, but I mean, no harm in gaining Todd McCarthy.
No, I think so. It's not like we see Tim Tetrick is driving too much for Pelling, so I expect him to stay on that one, and we're maybe going to get Todd on Pelling horse. The same thing with the trotters. Aki going to go with situationship, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get Dubé or something on Flying Chronos.
Well, if this was Sweden in eliminations like the Elite Lop, drivers would have to pick one horse, and they wouldn't be able to drive in both eliminations and things like that. But we don't have those sorts of rules around here.
The crowd would also have to clap before the start of the race as they're going around the turn. Everyone has to go clap, 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 and then they applaud the horses just for leaving the gate, which I think honestly is brilliant.
Well, so we're going to have a show. So when they'll draw it, and we're going to have a show on Wednesday. Maybe we'll bring Thomas to run it back here with us to discuss those two finals, the Messenger and the Yonkers Trot. And then that comes up this Friday at Yonkers. But we're going to talk a little races for Monday, because they have a guaranteed $10,000 pick 5 pool. It starts in race number 5 on Monday night. And we're going to put a couple tickets together. I thought this is a pretty good sequence here. There's plenty of ways you can go. It starts in race 5, and we have a pace and onwards of 11,000 last 5 starts. Ray, get us started. What was your thoughts here in the first leg?
I have to pull up the program real quickly to remember, because I thought that, again, this is a pretty formful sequence, just given, lots of horses landing in spots where class-wise just feels real snug for them. If I remember, the first leg has the Virgil Morgan horse.
It does.
The Pylon Post. Yeah, Family Recipe, who's not the morning line favorite. I'm curious what price he's actually going to be, just because it's tough to gauge the morning line at Yonkers, where they have it versus where the betting actually lands. Because you look down the line on this gelding, he's got so much more back class. I mean, speed-wise, he's not putting up the same types of marks that Twinbee Deluxe is. And you could maybe even argue the 50,000 claimer at Yonkers is a little deeper than the non-words at 10,000 bunch. I mean, given two races for a little bit more money. But I felt like that race from Family Recipe was textbook. This is your first race in a couple months. Get a good trip. See where you can finish. And I like the fact that he was able to tag that with a pretty decent final quarter where, if he's not the favorite, he's probably a good lean if you want to try and stay slim inside of that first leg. Because in my mind, it's either one of those inside two. I just don't know how some of these other ones get into the mix, especially looking at the 3 Hayesville, who's the morning line favorite. He got a textbook perfect trip. They went too fast to the first half. Back half was about 57 seconds. He was just chasing along. Brent Holland made the move at the right time to win. And the real question then, if you're going to get him at a short price here, moving up in class, is he going to work a perfect trip again? I don't see it. And on top of that, if anyone is going to get a good trip, it seems like the value would be on the 1 horse.
Agree on the 1. I could see the 2 leading to the stretch, and then we'll see. But he did get tracked down by Hayesville last time. Thomas, what'd you think there, leg 1?
I was like, first when I was starting the handicap race, I was like either going to single family receive just because of the dropping in class. He coming from a good barn, good qualifier, good back half last time, again, super good horses. And I also have number 2, Twinbee Deluxe, if I not single family receive. I think coming with a good driver, a good trainer with a high percentage. Hasty will up in class. I don't believe in if he's 2-1 morning line. If he goes off of a favorite, I'm going to try to beat him. For the guys who's a little fresh, I will maybe try a single family receive with a good driver, good trainer from the rail.
Agree. I do think that first race sort of goes through the 1 there. And it depends on the trip, I think, with the 2. I think that's another one you could use maybe as like a B type, depending on how you're structuring your tickets. Okay, so we'll move on to the 6th race. And non-winners of 15,000, last 5 starts, another pace. They go for a lot of money at Yonkers, 21,000. I thought this was a really tough race. I was going to go deep in here. Thomas, what do you think?
I'm standing with 2 horses in this. I took a shot standing with 2 horses. This number is from the rail with Joe Bongiorno. We know we're going to try to leave and get position at least. And the horse who I think is the best horse in the race, number 4, All Alone, coming from the leading trainer, Yonkers, Per Engblom, Jason Bartlett. We know we're going to gun out from there. I think they're both going to be super close when it come up to the 3rd quarter. And I think one of them just going to win. I think they are, on the paper, the best horses. They are into the same class. I know Detsy is dropping in class, but he haven't showed anything. So I'm going to stay on number 1, Vichy, and number 4, All Alone.
That sounds to me like you put Save America in pretty high regard, because All Alone could barely keep chase to Save America inside of that race where they went 52-2. I'm just kind of curious if you feel, because I feel like he should have had a bit more in that race.
He should maybe have a little more. But when we go back to April, when he was racing in no winners of 20, no winners of 22,000, and he was second one time and he was 5th one time, but he was bet by the betters, and now he's dropping down the no winners of 15,000 again. And we know with Engblom, Barn and Bart, we know they're going to be going behind the gate and just leave. So, and it's not like a race where I see so many horses who have like super, super good class.
Well, and I mean, this race also too has a weird one in Jingra Beach, who was all the way down to the bottom level in hours of 5,000, got a win by a neck, went a monster mile. I think that's a week after, 27 May, June 6th. That might be plus minus like 10 days. And then after that, I thought that was a really good effort out of post 8 in that hours of 10,000. He moves up in class again. I I feel like Jingra Beach is an interesting one inside of here. Although I'm curious, Thomas, how you evaluate that race 2 starts back.
But I feel that this is very much with those Ricky Butchie horses. Either they go or they are terrible,
Mm-hmm.
and especially with the trotters, but also with the pacers. So it's like, what is Maron gonna do from the 6th hole? Last time he had the 6th hole, he gunned out, but that was with Kekeli. I don't see he have the backlash to win. Or if he goes the 51 mile again, okay, then I'm gonna get beat. But I don't think that happened.
Really tough racer, I thought. Use as many as you can, really. I could see a lot of different scenarios with a lot of different winners in the race. And, there's some horses that are getting post switches. I think Dietzy's getting a drop and a post switch, and he was competitive prior to those last couple races. So, and like you said about Jingra's Beach, I mean, that's a 20-1 morning line. So this horse isn't going to be used too hard in the pick 5, I wouldn't think. Even Saranac Blue Chip, I know that he maybe is lacking class-wise also, but he's been competitive. He's shown speed. He won at 18-1 last time. So the horses are producing different efforts depending on the day, and I think that's what kind of race this is. So I think it's difficult if you're spread as far as you can. Any other thoughts, Ray, there?
I feel like, if anything, I'd probably use Vici as an A, like as the sole A, just because then if you want to try and build multiple tickets, you can either lean heavy on the obvious inside of this race, as time and time again, sometimes these races unfold, or if you have a bunch of Bs, I definitely would include Jingra Beach in a B, just so then you can open yourself to some of the longer shots, because I'm not sold on All Alone. I feel like he's probably going to be a money sink inside of this race, which makes this sequence more interesting. And this race is especially more interesting if that most recent race from Saranac Blue Chip really boosted Siegelman's confidence, because the last time that Saranac Blue Chip had post 7 against this class, he took back. But since he's been putting up good mile after good mile after good mile, and he was able to go 26-4 to the quarter in his most recent race, maybe he might try his hand from that outside post. And if he does, I like Jingra's Beach's chances way more, because then he doesn't have to go to the lead. He can come from off the speed. And I thought that off the speed effort from post 8, that was great. He made up like 9 lengths inside of that race to grab 5th. I mean, sure, it wasn't that fast of a final quarter, and he's usually kept lower company, but clearly this horse is trending in a good direction for whatever reason. I don't know if they did bridle changes or anything like that just woke this horse up in his last 3 starts. But there's a clear night and day difference with this 20-1 shot.
Yeah, it's tough race.
I need to maybe take the 3 Detsy on my ticket too, because when you go back and see he was been no winners of 20, no winners 21. He had bad post. Holland just took him off the gate. But before that, when he was in no winners of 15 with a good post, and we know Brent Holland is going to be aggressive, and we know we have backlash in this race. So I think I'm going to have 1, 3, 4 and take Detsy on the ticket too, because when I look more and more into the program, he should have a decent shot to at least to be close. And we know with Holland, we're going to get the value for the money.
Well, 7th race is another high-level pace here. Numbers of 30,000 last 5. Lots of familiar faces here. None Better, Backstreet Shadow, Fun at the Beach, Rock and Roll Bruna. A lot of these horses were in that Borgata series not that long ago. Ray, nice race. Where you at?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of developments have come inside of this race too. None Better at 11 years old. Credit to what Travis Alexander's been doing. This guy is still somehow rolling at that age. Like, he was able to finally start putting some pieces together on May 13th after finishing 3rd inside of that invitation. Then he went a really big mile on that day where Harris Philly was like minus 15 seconds, and Ruthless Hanover was able to go like 47 and change inside of it used to be the Commodore Barry. I forget what the name of the race is now, but it's tricky. None Better is the obvious speed. I think he's going to go forward, but he's thrown in some clunkers inside that invitational class. So you have to wonder if this class relief is really going to do him that much better, because as you mentioned, so many of these horses were in the Borgata, and those horses in the Borgata are, for one, horses that he didn't race against because he missed the Borgata. And on top of that, are horses that are probably of his same ilk, invitation or not. This is like a de facto invitational class. So this is a race where you'd probably be best to go against None Better, because if he certainly goes off, one of the favorites, then that opens you to some better payouts because there are no slouches inside of this race. Even Backstreet Shadow is making his third start for New Connections. I think they're just kind of they're figuring this guy out. They raced him off the speed. They raced him on the speed last out. I feel like he might be able to go a bit of a better mile, especially given this draw. He can probably sit closer than 6th. And if he does, and he gets perched into like a second over spot by Brent Holland, he's certainly a factor. Fun at the Beach is one of 2 that Gillis has. We're going to talk about another one later from the Borgata that seems to have gotten better after the series. He was able to grab 2 wins against Nars at 20,000. He had won a great race coming from off the speed after they went too fast. He's certainly in play. Rock and Roll Runa is making his third start back since a little bit of a layoff. And this guy was a sleeper inside of the Borgata. He was able to win a couple legs, and he just seems like a good horse that's built for the half. So I feel like that this is definitely a spread race. Unfortunately, I think I probably would use Rock and Roll Runa along with some others. I say unfortunately because he's probably going to be one of the short prices inside of the race too if they bet him on the move up in class. But I'm not sold on None Better, and I'm hoping at the very least he takes enough money, just given how fast he's gone, to alleviate some of the costs or some of the equity you lose by taking some of the other favorites inside of the race.
How about some of these old war horses? None Better, 11 years old, 51 wins, over $1 million. Backstreet Shadow, 9 years old, 45 wins, over $1 million. Fun at the Beach, 10 years old, 47 wins, over $1 million, and they're still racing for 30,000 every week. Thomas, I think I'd like to own one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. They are just war horses. They were take a Backstreet Shadow, race 31 races, Fun at the Beach 37 races, and Rock and Roll Runa 39 races. It's not like it's not much wet work on them either. So it's just racing and making money. It's like an ATM machine. Like I have one horse racing today at Yonkers is 9 to 5 morning line, Mr. Lucky Socks, and they go for 21,000. So it's like he won 1 and 2 seconds. He's like an ATM machine. We bought him after we bought Pontoni de Gato. Nothing is better to have a Yonkers horse racing.
Well, and plus, too, how often in horse ownership do you actually get to wake up and just see, oh, there's $5,000 more in my bank account? I don't know why that is, but that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's like if you can have horses who can go Yonkers and race 3 times a month, almost 2 or 3 times a month there, you're making money on them. So me and Niklas, the guy I work with, the Danish guy, and we give them to Engblom, and we've been lucky with the 2 we have had to know. So
where'd you end up in the race here, though? Who are we using?
No, in this race, I'm a big fan of Backstreet Shadow, but if he was still with Travis Alexander, I would maybe single him. But he is at the Daniel Renaud. He's not been the same, in my opinion. I'm 4 deep. I'm None Better A. It's going to be the favorite, I think, when it goes off. Backstreet Shadow, Fun at the Beach, and Rock and Roll Runa. It's going to be who got the trip and who wants to do it. They are old boys, and sometimes you need to trick them.
I think it's a good race. I would probably be 2, 3, 4 here. I do think Rock and Roll Runa will take money, and obviously he's had a pretty nice year. I mean, he won a couple of those Borgata legs, and sort of dropped $10 at 20,000 last 5, got his win last time. Was supposed to win that race. This is a little bit tougher. It's just a matter of who's in the mood, isn't it? Really, I mean, because all these horses are pretty even, and they on their day obviously can win the race. So a good spot and another tough leg, I think, to get through in the pick 5.
I want to also highlight from overseas. Some might remember him from his stint over here. Henrik Lundell wishing us good luck on this Monday card, or I like to think just in general, because honestly, I think everyone just needs good luck on their day-to-day basis. I was playing catch driver against Henrik the other day. You're welcome for that win, Henrik. He was loaded with horse in the pocket, and I could tell, and I was done. So I did the courtesy pull. Tron would have been so proud of me for what I did for Henrik inside of that race. But glad he's tuning in. So many people tuning in for our discussion. Not only of we talked about the eliminations earlier. If you're listening to the show, you were like, that was a good time. I was so glad I was there. We are too. But I think that's all of our thoughts then on this race, specifically at Yonkers, right? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm leaning 3, 4, 5. I can't take None Better in good conscience. He's a horse that can beat me though, because I thought he had to put up a fight with We Had a Baby, It's a Boy inside of that Harris Philadelphia race, and that showed that he's still, kind of sharp up in the noggin. But I mean, I don't know. Those last 2 starts leave me, even on the drop in class, just not impressed.
Well, we'll see. The 8th race, another high-level pace,
Oh, it's the
invitational.
Yeah.
And
Speak of the devil.
Races 7 and 8, or I'm sorry, post 7 and 8 were assigned in here, and that's Boiling or Energetic Hanover, who has won 4 out of the last 5 invitationals here at Yonkers. Thomas, does he win another one, or can one of these other horses, like a Hullabaloo, turn the tables?
Yeah, I think so. I at least gonna try to beat him from a post 8 against good horses. Hullabaloo, if we know he's back to the Yonkers form he had in the Borgata when he come to the front and won on 15-2, I think he's gonna be hard to beat. It's been everywhere. Been up in Canada, back to Ohio, and now back to Yonkers. It's much shipping. Hullabaloo, I think can have a decent shot. I think also Energetic Hanover, I'm going to have him on my ticket. Moonshine Kiss is number 4 with George Brennan. I think George Brennan at least gonna leave for a good position, and if he can get the trip, I think he can surprise. One horse who have better class than he have showed is number 2, Cover Bridge. Mm-hmm. If we know he was back to his the best performance he could, he's 8-1 morning line. I'm not sure if he is like super sharp right now. In the Borgata finally, yeah, he did. Something was wrong that day, and he qualified back after. 4 deep, but Hullabaloo is my A horse.
Yeah, Covered Bridge kicked 26 and 4, second off the bench versus Invitation. Now he draws inside. I do think he's a use in the race. And Ray, I know you like Hemsworth. I'm sort of a Hemsworth fan also. He got an invitational win there on June 17th.
Yeah, there was something about the Borgata series where he just wanted none of it. And then he left the Borgata series, and all of a sudden he was like, I love my job. I don't know why. I'm not sure why that's the case, but I mean, certainly ever since the Auger, that's the name of the race that's at Harris Philly, that was the Commodore Barry. I feel Hemsworth definitely has improved in his last few starts. I think this is a good race in the sequence, in part because we're again presented another kind of coin flip. You're going to have a lot of money going in on Energetic Hanover, the 8 horse, and so that there automatically creates value. For one, you're going to have people who might not want to go with him from the 8 hole, and so if you want to single on him, there's a chance that you might get a little bit of a better price given just how stacked this race is. And I feel like you would have to only use him inside of this race. I don't think you can use him and spread. That's death to your ticket. But at the same time, there's so much other value if you want to go against him. And there's definitely going to be a little bit of money spread inside of this race. But, if you use a Covered Bridge, a Hemsworth, a Moonshine Kisses, you're going to most likely kill a lot of tickets still if you beat Energetic Hanover inside of this race. So it definitely reads like a valuable leg to me inside of this sequence. And it's another one where I probably would spread again using Hemsworth, using Covered Bridge, because he's had 2 starts already. That most recent start in the Invitational, especially from that post, now that he moves inside, everything's reading to me like everything's back on track. We're going to try and race him as he was last year to see if, he still has that engine to him. Moonshine Kisses, I'm kind of back and forth on. I mean, he has the class, but I look back to that race at Saratoga. That's a pretty good mile where he went 51-2. But last time he was here at Yonkers in the Invitational, he just got whooped. So I feel like with the right trip, he should be able to still get involved. And we all talked about Hullabaloo. Like Hullabaloo is the class of this race. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see when the betting opens on this race, if they're going to go with the freshness and consistency of Energetic Hanover, as I imagine they might, or if his price is going to float upwards because everyone's going to see Hullabaloo from the Camluck Classic, from the Battle of Lake Erie, which you can't really discredit his effort inside of that race from, because he just was in a terrible spot. He was locked in, had nowhere to go. Once they turn for home, they're all stacked. It's too late to really build any kind of momentum. And he's one that has to get rolling. Like, he rolled at the right time in the Borgata to win in that race. But, this is a lighter bunch. then the Borgata, then the Camlock, then the Battle of Lake Erie. So I have to imagine he's going to take some money too. This is definitely a tough race, but I do think you either have to single Energetic Hanover and move on, or you try and beat him and get some value in some of the other horses.
Yeah, Energetic Hanover's gone pretty fast, but this is a different kettle of fish now with the covered bridges and the Hemsworths and the Hullabaloo showing up, and he's riddled with that outside post. So I think it's going to be his toughest test. And even Boiling Ore beat him a couple starts ago. Now, that was back in May, but he's shown ability also, and it's Travis Alexander. That's the horse that gets lost in the race. I mean, if you're looking for a price, he's been 2-1, 3-1, 2-1 the last 3 times. He's going to be 25 or more, I would think.
You think he blasts?
Well, I mean, that's his game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Thomas, your thoughts there on the 7? Maybe he's not listening to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm listening. Boiling Ore.
Yeah.
But it's like, what is Kakeli going to do from the 7? I have a feeling some horses on the inside is going to leave at least.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm not if it was Bartlett or Brent Holland, we know they're going to gun out from the 7 hole. But Kakeli is more like what can you say? Like he take care of the horse if he don't have the feeling and the post to leave. So I'm a little more that they're gonna just back him off the gate.
I mean, they did go 53-4 last time at Philly, so I mean the horse certainly does have the go early, but it is a tough race, and we just like to give you options and scenarios. Well, let's try to get paid here. Race number 9, last race of that pick 5 on Monday night, almost 20,000 last 5. More pacers here, upper level pacers. I have a single in here. Ray, what say you?
Oh, you have a single? I don't know. I don't know how you have a single. This is again another one of those races where there are so many nice horses in here for an hour to 20,000. I mean, for one, we remember some moment somewhere from the Borgata, which was the Borgata. That's a stakes race. I remember a time when Nautical Hanover was supposed to be a big stakes type, and then it's just thing went wrong after thing went wrong after thing went wrong, and I mean, I think it's a testament to the horse's class that he's still fighting at the ranks that he is now. He's very clearly is a good horse, but he's just had so many hiccups for whatever reason. And on top of that, it's surprising to see him on a small track like this because Mike, I'm sure as you remember him, when you would put him on a helmet, he was one of the fastest horses kicking off at Mohawk. He really loved the long stretch. And so I think it's interesting that he's now confined to the half-mile oval. And I mean, he's been doing okay. He's been making money. He's been getting paid. So maybe you can't necessarily blame the spotting for him, but I can't really say that's like a really great place for him to be on the gate inside of this race. And also, again, just I know how good he is on the bigger track. That I thought I'm going to sneeze. I'm not going to sneeze. That's if for anyone who doesn't want to sneeze, just say you're going to.
I've been waiting for Ray to show up. Here he is.
No, that was my allergies showing up because I guess it's still really dusty in here. I have there's 10 different fans going because I don't know. Mike, you're in the heat dome right now. The heat dome is going on.
Okay.
At this moment. So inside of here, it's maybe 75, 80 degrees. I walk outside. It is 500 degrees. And so that's the other thing I'm fighting here is my allergies, the heat, trying to get paid inside of this pick 5. I think I'm more interested before I say anything. Do you just single some moment somewhere on the class edge on the drop that he's supposed to crush a group like this?
Yes, absolutely. Especially out there last time where he was closer and faced covered bridge, Hemsworth in that race. I know he missed a week, but this is the right spot, I think, for him. This is the easy spot for quite a while. Thomas, what say you?
Now, that's crazy. It's not many times we single the same horse, Mike. So it's either
getting better.
I was either when I made the ticket, I singled so moment somewhere because of the class drop. Offensive driver Burke post 2. Yeah, he should normally win this race. If you're going to go deep, it's going to be Jahan Hanover. You have from the 8 hole what Stanley got, Corey Stratton. It's not my driver to go on Yonkers, but and a couple of Nautical Hanover. But I think some moment somewhere should just win this race with the class drop and everything. If it is not, if you don't gonna the horse we talked about in the first race, if you single family receipt, then you can have a little more horses in the last race. But I'm going to back you and follow you.
Do we think Corey drives what Stanley got, or is this a case of list the trainer, change it day of? Because I think that's an interesting thing too, that he got Bartlett to drive. Otherwise, Jordan drives. I don't know where Jordan is on this Monday.
He's on the 5. Is where he at.
You're right. He's on the 5. He's not driving him. Which again is like, I'm curious as to why, because we watched the Borgata too. What Stanley got's a nice horse. So this is, I mean, the post isn't ideal, but I mean, it's tough. Some Moment Somewhere is definitely going to leave. It's tough to see what other speed's going to go out to challenge him. And so I understand him as a single in that sense. But I respect what Stanley got too from the outside. I feel like he's got to get something.
But how's he going to get a trip in the race?
And that's a great question. I mean, he got 5th when he was last time in a place like this, and with no speed, he's not going to have the speed to close into. And so, I mean, maybe it is as simple as Some Moment Somewhere getting it. But I mean, I don't know. Take a Gamble has some gates. Someone else has to leave. They're not just going to let him go.
We'll see.
And I mean, I don't know. I think he's going to be such a short price. I don't think he's a guarantee to get home. It's as simple as that.
Well, we've been here about an hour. Hopefully we've given you lots of thoughts, a little preview to the show for Wednesday night, Yonkers Trot Messenger. They'll be drawing that very soon. We'll have plenty of thoughts on Wednesday night, and get in on this Pick 5 Monday night. This is a great sequence, I would say. Lots of options. This is going to pay very well. It could even carry over. That's how hard it is. I think it's very difficult. Final thoughts, Ray, for what we've done today.
I think for a Saturday, this has been great. No one's ever expected to come into work on a Saturday. So I think that PTF and Co should give us medals.
Okay.
That should be in our year-end, review of how much we deserve. Maybe, some bonus pay. But aside from that, I'm in agreement. The thing that I like most with this Pick 5 sequence is it's approachable. You have room to go in with a fairly low cost and be confident in what you're betting, and maybe even hit it 1 time, 2 times, depending on how you play your hand. They seem like incredibly fair races. They seem like logical ones at that as well. And on top of that, you have that nice balance between races where you can have confidence and where you can let kind of the chaos that the half mile of Yonkers can maybe conjure in terms of long shots and such. So it seems like it's not an impossible sequence. I agree. It could probably pay. I mean, it's definitely going to pay, but I think that, it's not one that's going to strain your bankroll. You can take a good shot with not that much down.
Well, Thomas, we wish you the best tonight with your horse racing at Yonkers. What race are you in tonight? And any final thoughts?
I think we are in the 7th race. 2 seconds. I have it. I think it's the 7th race. It is the 7th race. Post 4. 9-5. Jason Barker, Peringblom. Hoping it'll be good. When I'm betting today, it's going to be a Meadowlands. It's good racing on Meadowlands, and going to be exciting to see again winners bet. And I think Owell can have a chance to win today. I think I'm going to have some money on Owell.
So a couple spot plays from Thomas there. And we thank the Standard Road Owners Association of New York for sponsoring these shows, and MGM Borgata for sponsoring these shows. We appreciate everybody joining us here. We had a nice crowd the entire time. So enjoy the races Monday night. Catch us back Wednesday. I'm not sure quite what time yet, but I'm sure Edison will figure it out, and we'll advertise on our social media. So until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Super good.